Here are the students of Tennessee Valley Crossroads from the PodLab at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga.
How well do you know the person sitting next to you? In the coffee shop? In the library? In the classroom?
Social media often highlights what makes us different, so we decided to turn off our phones and learn who we are as people.
And we found that we're not so different after all. Each episode, we sit down and listen to each other's stories, not what we believe, but why we believe it.
And make genuine connections, in this time often marked by superficial interactions.
So grab your headphones and listen along with us. We're students at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga.
Here's David Elliott, a creative writing major, and communications student Megan Batson talking about faith.
I think probably the number one thing that my personal beliefs come from is my faith. I grew up under my dad being a pastor. He was originally a campus minister. But ever since I've gotten to college, ever since then I've just been shaping a lot of my viewpoint around Christianity and Jesus, the things that the Bible says. I've had a lot of more personal experiences with him recently. Ever since I've gotten out of the house, I've been a lot less defined by my family's beliefs and more my own.
I'm not as close with anything religiously anymore, but I had a great experience with it growing up, which for a lot of people I know that was a rarity. Why I kind of fell out of it, a mix of things. A bit of like seeing Christians be horrible to each other, seeing Christians be horrible to other people. That's a bit of it, but really it was a bit of like, I felt kind of lied to in the sense of like, it was like I went to a summer camp, fun start, and they had one of the cry nights and they had like the testimony
One of the cry nights, yes, of course. I've been in so many of those.
Exactly, and like they had like a counselor talk night where basically after cry night, counselors take their little campers like aside and have like a one-on-one conversation. Like that's a good idea in theory to like make sure they're okay and check up on them because that's like a really heavy night.
Yeah.
But then mine backfired, didn't work out. Because, like, I went to go talk with my counselor, and I was telling her, because, like, the week before, I had watched a Neil deGrasse Tyson documentary with my parents. And I was like, that was my first time finding out that Adam and Eve was not universally believed. That was my first time finding out that creation of the world might be different. I told my counselors about that because I was, like, actually honest. I was like, oh, my God, yeah. They were like, what's going on with you faith-wise? And I was like, I'm having some, like, weird doubts just because, like, I watched, like, a documentary the other day, and it was talking about, like, evolution and Big Bang Theory and things that I've never really heard of before. And I was starting to have some doubts, but I feel comforted by the fact that I'm really young. I was like, I feel like I have time to figure this out.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow. And I was like, I'm 9.
What?
I'm 9 years old.
Dude.
You're gonna tell me that? I know. And so then that flipped everything for me. And literally, like, that was, like, my first panic attack in my life. That was crazy.
Wow.
I went to bed that night, and I was, like, shaking. I couldn't sleep forever because I was like, oh, my God, what if I get hit by a bus tomorrow? No! And so that ruined a lot for me. That was, like, that was the turning point of I was like, they don't want me to, like, find myself. They want me to convert. Yeah.
I really get mad when Christians are not understanding of, like, whether it be gay people or like people that are addicted to drugs or just like any type of thing that the church might define as sin. Whenever the church is like hateful towards people like that or anything that's like trying to gatekeep the doorways of heaven, like we as Christians should be defined like radically just by how much we're accepting of other people. A phrase that I always like to take from the Bible that my dad kind of talks about a lot is having an aggressive commitment to loving people.
Yeah.
That was my conversation with Megan Batson.
And I'm Sylvia Denton, a communications student. Our class made this podcast at the PodLab with help from our professor, Will Davis. The music in this episode is by Blue Dot Sessions.
This podcast is inspired by StoryCorps' One Small Step initiative that brings together strangers to find the humanity in each other.